HDFC Bank CEO Aditya Puri speaking to Bloomberg's editor-in-chief emeritus Matt Winkler. Let's talk more about HDFC and Indian banks now with Diksha Gira in Singapore. She's Bloomberg's intelligence senior analyst for Asian financials. And Diksha, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with the HDFC's results that came out on Monday. What was the key takeaway?
So I mean, you would have seen that fourth quarter last year, they derailed from their track record of reporting about 20% growth in profit for the last 20 years. That fourth quarter was a bit of a blip, actually, because the RBI had given leeway to banks to postpone recognition on bad loans caused by the demonetization process. And HDFC Bank, instead of kicking the can further, they actually took those provisions in the fourth quarter. So apart from that, I think this quarter has been particularly strong on the revenue side. It's backed by a solid fee growth. We've seen 23% loan growth backed by a broad range of segments, including retail, business banking, and also working capital loans from the corporates. All of these has been on the back of market share gains. And interestingly, the whole digitization push has helped them contain their costs, which is giving the bottom line a good momentum.
So good momentum on the bottom line, strong revenue growth, as you mentioned, but hasn't the NPL ratio, Diksha, for HDFC gone up again this quarter?
Yeah, so it has gone up about 20 basis points to 1.24%. But if you see compared to the other banks, it's still way too low. And a lot of this has been because of the farm loan waivers announcements. So as you'd be aware, a lot of state governments have announced farm loan waivers, and mostly farmers who have outstanding debt are the ones who are eligible for this. So which is why we've seen an industry-wide delays in payments of those kind of loans. So I think this is going to take about 2 to 3 quarters to resolve when there's clarity on which loans are waived off and which aren't. So either the government comes in and pays for the ones that are waived off, or the the creditor starts servicing those loans.
Now, Diksha, I'm curious, to what extent will new regulations actually help empower the RBI itself to tackle the bad loans problem?
Yeah, so I think there have been a couple of very good steps that have come across. So RBI has asked the banks to disclose the divergence between their reported stressed loans and what the RBI audits had suggested. That should help the banks or give them a nudge to actually push for more conservative NPA reporting and provisioning, which is one good thing. Secondly, the more empowered Joint Lenders Forum should kind of speed up the whole resolution process in a certain way, because you're essentially forcing decisions by cutting the in the resolution process. And thirdly, I think more recently, RBI had mandated the banks to refer the 12 largest corporate accounts, which comprise about 25% of the entire sector's stressed loans, to file for the bankruptcy under the IBC. It definitely gives teeth to the bankruptcy code. And the banks have been asked to speed up the resolution over the next 6 months for the remaining accounts, which kind of puts some timeline context to this whole issue.
And very quickly here, what are some of the challenges or the main risks moving ahead?
Yeah, that's the main point, right? So it looks like a 2-step forward, 1-step back kind of a situation, because, when these referrals were made, one of the corporates appealed to the courts, and the decision, while it was in the favor of the lenders, but still the court said that all these accounts should be given a fair chance at other resolution mechanisms, which could mean that there could be further delays in getting these things resolved. Secondly, I think the government and RBI are focused on resolution, but there isn't really a clear roadmap in terms of how we are going to capitalize these banks, because and we need a proper strategy to force cooperation from some of these defaulters. Now, in the absence of this, we'll see a lot of PSU banks who will actually increase provisioning, and that they might have to shrink their balance sheets in order to maintain those capital adequacy levels. So I just worry if this is going to become another exercise of kicking the can down the road. And thirdly, and I mean most importantly, I'm not sure how much resolution can we actually get just by this mechanism, because there are sector-wide stresses in the steel and power industry of overcapacity, of reduced competitiveness. So all of those issues, just because the JLFs are forcing some of these resolution mechanisms, doesn't mean that a bad asset will turn good. So at some point, banks will actually have to take haircuts. So to be able to move forward. And the main question is that who will inject the capital for them to be able to take these haircuts?
All right, great stuff. We'll have to leave it there. Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Analyst for Asian Financials, Dick Shigira. Thank you very much. All right.